this is still happening the same day the previous video, was made, and I decided to give you a red and red. So I have a red top and a red background. What do you think? Like or not like? I like. But yes, so today I did mention earlier in my other video that I was gonna make a breakdown on how I was able to save that first 3 months of emergency fund. And just a little background story, okay? I have always been someone who could not save money. Okay, let me tell you, growing up with my elder brother, he was the one who would save a lot of money that he made and he earned or he got somehow. I couldn't save nothing, okay? When I get $50, I'm off to the shop, okay? I'm getting Fanta, I'm getting me some pies. And yeah, that habit, of course, came into my adulthood as well, and here I was, I got a little money. And let me tell you, I don't know, I noticed it. I may not be the only one this happens to, because I've seen a lot of people talk about compulsion for buying. Maybe that's something we could explore another time. But yeah, that compulsion for buying is a real thing, okay? And that compulsion for buying doesn't even have to be for when you have a lot of money. No, I didn't have any money. But whatever little money came in, I wanted to get me some sweets. I want to get me some, I had to get me something. Okay, I had to buy something out of that money. And I had to realize that maybe there's another way, I could do this. And in this last year, I actually learned so much, and I realized, hey, I can actually do so much more with whatever I earn and whatever I have, even if that be $10, $10, $20, $50. I could actually do so much more with them than just, go to the store and buy an egg and just, throw it on my face or something. just buy something just to buy, I had to learn that, hey, there's more to money. And it is the key to how the world runs at the moment, and I could be doing so much more with mine, that could actually help my future. So that was when I actually started reading books. So that was the first step to my financial literacy, was reading books. And there were two main books I actually read. The first two books I read was, of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Stop. Oh dear, I always forget. But the actual first book I read on financial education was actually The Millionaire Next Door. Yeah, it was actually The Millionaire Next Door. I always forget it, and I think I always forget it because the book had so many things that really, when you think about it in depth, it is common sense. It's like, oh, this is just common sense. You should already know, that you should save that 10%. You should already know that, being diligent with things will get you far, So I think because the book was full of so much common sense, I forget that I even read it, because it was like that was supposed to already be a part of my vocabulary anyway. So I think it's like the book that I would recommend people read first. Actually, if you want to start, learning more about financial education, I would actually recommend you read The Millionaire Next Door first. Yeah, and then I think after I read The Millionaire Next Door, it made reading Rich Dad Poor Dad even easier to understand more or less what they were saying, what they were trying to reach for. And then when I actually read The Richest Man in Babylon, after the Rich Dad Poor Dad, I read The Richest Man in Babylon, and I understood that even better. But I think a lot of that came from the formation I already had with The Millionaire Next Door. I tried really hard not to skip the tables, no matter how difficult they looked. So, through those tables, I was able to learn more about how some of the richest demographics in our country is their teachers. They were teachers, I think that book really brought me close to home to understand that, hey, anybody could be anything. you know, and because of how simple it was, I keep forgetting I read it. So it's really what I would recommend you read, you know, if you're starting out. Okay. Let's go back. During that period, another book I also got instead of reading, and thankfully I'm done now, and I was able to learn so much from it as well, was The Richest Man in Babylon. So I think those are like the two starter kit books for financial literacy, and I got them, and let me tell you, it was life changing. Yeah, it was. So I started reading those books, and I finished them probably July, August, and by October I had saved what, my 3 whole months of emergency fund. 3 months, okay? And I had learned, like, to me, you may not think that's groundbreaking, but it was to me. It was really groundbreaking to me, because I was someone who couldn't hold money, okay? I was someone who, you know, when I had $50, I was buying sweets, I was buying, you know, everything I could chop, 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 you know, and eat, and you know, I'm not much of one to buy bags or shoes. I'm more of one to buy food things, you know, like sweets, like, yeah, those types of things that actually make you sick. So that was me. So being able to have so much money in a bank account and actually look at my bank account and not feel the urge to spend and splurge. Who that girl? Who that girl? Who that girl? Oh my God. But yes, okay, it was that groundbreaking for me, you know. And I mean, I was looking at my bank account and I had so much money in it, and I didn't feel like just jumping up and going out to do something. No, I actually felt like, oh, that's cool, we should add more. I was like, bitch, who that girl? But yes, so today I'm gonna tell you, you know, more on financial literacy, what I learned, especially what I learned from those two books, and how I learned, especially how I learned how to allocate whatever earnings I got. You know, I would make my money, my salary came in every 2 weeks. So how to allocate the funds and everything, I had to, you know, I had to learn that, right? The books may not have told me exactly how many percent to give to what. So that was something I had to learn for myself. And I'm gonna show you even some of the documents I made, and let's get into it. Let's get into it, people. So after the first few months of reading these books, I realized I had to do something. Right, I had to do something to take charge of my financial situation. Otherwise, I was going to ruins, okay? And I was gonna stay there. So what did I do? I created that first spreadsheet. So just like I had learned from the books, I had like a liability and assets type of table, you know, and principally my liabilities were of course costing me money, and I had a middle ground which I used yellow color to represent. It wasn't costing me money, but it wasn't giving me money. It was there, it was just okay, you know. I guess it could be costing me money with inflation, but for a starter, give me a break. And lastly, I had of course my assets as green, or whatever wasn't, you know, costing me money, and then what was costing me money as red. So there we go, right? So for green, what I had in there was like my savings, right? I put in there that pay yourself first at least 10% of your earnings. So on my table right there, you could actually see the table was so much bigger. I had so many things I wanted to add in there. You know, it wasn't just the basic. No, I had a big ass table, let me tell you. Yes, I had a big ass table. And if you notice right there, I had reinvestment, I had investments, then I had savings, and then retirement. So all of that was great. Okay, I want to be able to, you know, put into my retirement, my investment. I want reinvestment for me was more like how do you say, the funds that you save. It's like a savings, but that you can cash out whenever necessary and cash out easily to reinvest into something else. Like if a good real estate popped up, I wanted to start saving for retirement as soon as possible as well. Then as for the yellow, my yellow ground. It's not costing me money, or it is necessary. Even though it's costing me money, I can't really cut back on it. So if you notice, the first yellow I have is my emergency fund. It wasn't really costing me money, and it was just there. It wasn't costing me money, it wasn't giving me money, but it was there, you know. And in the beginning, actually, during the course of the year, one of the main reasons why I grew a very big emergency fund was because I actually allocated more of my earnings to the emergency fund. I actually put so much more into my emergency fund, first things first. I had about 35% of whatever I earned go into emergency fund at some point in the year. Yeah. So yes, I was able to, you know, I think maybe that might have happened and worked for like what, 2 months or so. Yeah, but I did have, so my yellow was emergency fund, and then you could see red, mortgage, red, rent, right? Those are two things that I felt would be costing me money. I haven't even started saving for the mortgage yet, but I had it in there. I guess I always wanted to, you know, get to a point where I could actually save for it. So you can see it right there. And then other yellows I had were things like bills, like necessities, and wants. Actually, I added my wants there. So it's different for me because necessities are like food, water. Wants are like if I want to go to the cine. And I actually had another for like needs. Needs are not like the necessities that I need every month, you know. No, that's not. Need are things like when I need an extra pair of shoes, or my shoes are bad now, or when I need a new bag because the one I have is, you know, bad and I can no longer use them. And the last two I had were debt and then bucket saving. For debt, I had, you know, in the beginning I had very little of my funds going to debt, you know, and there you are. And then I had a bucket savings. Bucket savings was what I called the savings I had for, say, my title. So I'm saving some money for my certificate, my university certificate. I have to pay over 17 to 18,000 Mexican pesos. So so something like that goes into the bucket. Yeah, so that's one of the main things that went into my bucket savings. So there you can see the table. The first thing I did was create that table. Okay, and in the beginning I might not have even known what to put in my table, but I knew, okay, what do I need? So that was first step. I created my table on what I need and how to spend, how to move my money, stuff like that. Yeah. The second thing I did was allocate certain percentage to each, you know, item. So I allocated certain percentage to each item, and right here you can actually see my percentage right there. Savings 10%, retirement I had like 3% because I'm like, okay, I'm starting pretty early, so I can start with very little, and I don't really have that much money. So 3% is good for, you know, starting retirement fund savings. So that was how I said, you know, allocating the money, you know, and that was the second step. Allocate percentage to each item. Of course, percentage that totals up to 100% of whatever I earn. So the third thing I had to do was I tried to wake up 30 minutes earlier on each of my paydays to divide whatever was coming in. Why? Because, you know, generally the way we are as people, by the time payday roll around, we don't really have any more money, right? So usually that payday, you already start withdrawing out of your pay and you're already using it. So I realized in the first month, I was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, that was two different paychecks, and I was like, I would allocate the money when I come back. But then by the time before I came back from work that day, I was already spending the money. So I realized, hey, I have to actually allocate this earlier. That way I know exactly what and how much I'm actually allowed to spend, because by the end of those first 2 paydays, I had spent more than I should have, you know, to allocate properly the funds. Maybe I want to go to the cine. I'm a character. I know, Mickey Mouse, but that was by the way, okay. But I had to wake up early in the morning, 30 minutes earlier than my whenever I was to wake up. I would wake up 30 minutes early on my paydays, and it was easy to do. Not easy to do per se. It was pretty tough because I was like waking up earlier, right? I was like all grumpy, but then it was also a little bit easy to do because during your paydays you're usually very excited. So actually, my paycheck also varied during that period. It was every 2 weeks. There were some weeks when I was earning 7,000. There were some every 2 weeks when I was earning 6,000, 5,000. So it didn't even make any sense. So my paycheck actually varied a lot during that period. So because of that, I actually had to wake up earlier in the morning to, divide the actual money that came in that day, because I couldn't really be sure what would come in the night before to be able to do that calculation before I go to bed. So I had to wait, and then in the morning when the money, because it would come in during the midnight. So by morning my money was in, so I was able to start spending. But in order to make sure I don't spend half the money before I come back the first day, I try to wake up in the morning and then do the division right there, and then move the money to the places that need to go, and then spend the rest. And then I know more or less how much I could spend. So I think if you're someone whose paycheck is more stable, maybe this calculation is something you could do even before the paycheck arrives. And you could do it, at your leisure time. You don't have to wake up first thing early in the morning after you get paid. But if you're someone like me whose paycheck comes in at midnight and then you start spending that same day, then it would probably be best to wake up in the morning and then do that division, before you go out. So it really depends on your situation, I think. The fourth thing I had to do during the course of the months to be able to save that, those 3 months of emergency fund, was I had to open more bank accounts. So principally, I only had one bank account, which was my student account. So that was just my student account. And it's the one right here. Actually, if you look at the top of my table, you see where it says Santander SA. That's my student account. So in my table, I actually added, including my bank. Yeah, okay. The bank accounts each of this money was supposed to go to, I added it in the table, and it did help me a lot, And I only had that Santander account previously. So what did I do? I opened a BBVA. So if you notice right there, you can see two other BBVA. One of them is in yellow that says BBVA Unlimited, and the other says BBVA account. So the one that is just BBVA account is the simple account I opened, where my paycheck actually was then coming into. So my paycheck just comes directly into that account. And then the other account I opened is what is called the unlimited account. And one good thing about that account was I wanted it to be my savings account. So I opened the account that has that limit of 4,000. So the minimum that could be in that account is 4,000 pesos at every time. So I have to have 4,000 pesos in that account at each time. And well, I think that was actually one of the first places, or one of the main reasons I was actually able to save good amounts of money. It was because in that account I had to have 4,000, whether I liked it or not. So my brain then started getting used to having at least 4,000. And it's like, I have 4,000 and I'm not spending it. I don't need it. So I like that account because it makes me not touch certain amounts of money. And if to my brain it was like, if the bank is saying 4,000 is the limit, then 4,000 is a little amount. That means you have to add more. So there was the gymnastics of my brain trying to then add more money to that, and over time that grew. But if you notice, I now had 3 bank accounts. So the first, if you notice right here, you'd see that for The normal BBVA account where my paycheck came in, and it had like a very low limit of like what, 20,000. Yeah, so that account, I had my necessities will come out of it, my wants, my needs. So in that account, everything else, and I could actively take that card out with me during the day and actually spend from it. And then if you notice the unlimited account, the 4,000 limit, I didn't take that out to spend. And if you notice, that actually held emergency fund. So largely that account held my emergency fund and my savings. So in that account, I would actually put my emergency fund and my savings, things like my investment money as well. So all of that stayed there before I invested. And then lastly, in the Santander account, which was my student account, my debts would go in there, my bucket savings would go in there. It was my student account, so I was saving for my school title right there. So that was the fourth thing I did. I had to open more bank accounts. That way I wasn't, actively touching what shouldn't be touched. And some cards or accounts, I could just close it and then keep it somewhere safely and quietly. So yeah, that was point number 4, right? The fourth step. Papa, he woke up. So number 5, the fifth thing I did, remember I already told you guys I had allocated percentage, and then I would wake up early in the morning to actually calculate the percentage and the actual amount and then put it into my spreadsheet. I would then write that down, and my point number 5 was I would move the money from the paycheck account to the other accounts. So the ones that had to go into savings and everything else, that would go into savings account, and that would lock. I would, metaphorically, lock that account so nothing comes out. And then the one that had to go into the debt account will go into the debt account, and that would be locked, and then the one that could be spent stayed in my paycheck account. Since I had these multiple accounts, I was able to keep both the one for my emergency fund and the one for debt at home. And then the one I had with me was the one that had my necessities that I could spend, that I would carry with me. And after a while, I actually started keeping it at home because I would still overspend. But later, I was actually able to carry it with me and take it out, and I didn't actually use it. So I was like, okay, I'm growing, I'm maturing. And in that lesson, what I learned was, in the beginning, I would allocate so much more money than necessary to my savings. I would try to save so much more than I could afford to save. So saving too much, I guess. And later, I ended up having to touch that money. So in the first 2 months, that happened frequently. So I would save, and then later I would have to bring money out of that savings or emergency fund and then use it, for food or anything else, And I came to realize I had too much percentage in emergency fund and in everything else. And I needed actually to readjust my percentage and add more money to my necessities. So that was what I did. So don't try not to save too much in the beginning, as all that would do is it will make you just touch your savings and but it's all right. You learn from it. And by month number 5, I believe, so the first 2 months I did that, and by month 3 and 4 I was like, starting to learn how to readjust the percentage I gave to my necessities and increase it. And by month number 5, I wasn't really touching much of my emergency funds or savings much anymore. I was hardly touching them, because by then I was now saving the appropriate amount I needed, and I was able to then, allow it compound. So by month number 5 and 6, I was able to then compound more of my emergency fund because I didn't touch them anymore. Yep. So that's it for this video, you guys. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe. I don't have subscribers. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Okay. If you like this, subscribe and share with other people, who would like to know how to create a spreadsheet for their, for their savings, share this with them. I would love to have them too. I'd love to have all of you. But yes, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to go check out hobvis. You already know. Yes. Don't forget to go check out my website, hobvis, and don't forget as well to go check out our investment platform. It is a startup, a startup platform, a platform where people can create craft and little things they create on their hobbies, and they could actually post it there or sell it. So on hobvis, you can actually sell your crafts. So your art, your craft, you can actually sell them there. Well, that's what I'm trying to create currently. We're just launching, and we are still in need of investments to keep the platform, up. Then we can start running. So that's where we are right now. Go and join the hobvis investment platform. It is a crowdfunding, so I was able to make the investment as low as $50. Feel free to put in your coffee money right there, and let's fly to the moon together. Okay. Okay. And as hobvis grows as a platform, your investment gets to grow as well. So actually, I have invested myself. Some of the investment allocations I have, in my spreadsheet, you could see right there, I actually put those into hobvis at the moment. So yeah, go join us and join us in our investment platform. Please check it out, and if you like it, help us stay open. Okay. And that's it for this video. Okay, happy new year once again, and I wish you all the best. Okay, I wish us all the best. Again, I wish us all a mischievous 2024, that makes us happy and makes things happen for us. But yeah, that's it. I'm done. I never know how to end these videos. Okay, I know how to start it, but I don't know how to end it. I think I'm done for the day. Yep, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. I should be done. But yes, that's it. Okay, that's it.